Giovanni Tusa is a philosopher and media researcher based in Lisbon, where he is currently a researcher in philosophy and ecology at the Nova Institute of Philosophy, also known as IFIL Nova, at the Universidade Nova de Lisboa. As a documentary filmmaker and video artist, he has had his work screened in Cuba, London Documentary Film Festival, the Biennale della Danza in Venice, Coimbra, and Paris. His latest work, De la Fin, co-author with Alain Badiou, has been published in French in 2017 and then translated into English, Portuguese, and Spanish. And Giovanni is also, given his long collaboration with Jean-Luc Nancy, he's an ideal person to introduce our speaker today. So I will leave it to you, Giovanni, to give us an introduction to his thought. And I will see you later for the Q&A. Okay. Thank you so much.
Thank you for introduction and for your invitation, Simonetta, as usual. Yeah, so first of all, it's very difficult to speak like this without seeing anybody. So this is why I was suggesting then later when Jean-Luc Nancy is going to answer some of your questions, he might see you, because otherwise it's really hard, even for me, and I imagine for him. Also, it's a pleasure to be again working with all of you, those I know and those I still don't know. And so I will be very straightforward, because then in 50 minutes or so I'm supposed to call Nancy and get him into the platform. So I'll just say some words about his work and how this connects also with what I'm saying tomorrow, because as you know, I may know, the general title of the session is Philosophy and Ecology. But then for this session today, we choose with Simonetta, we choose to call it the fragile skin of the world, and this is due to the fact that the last publication by Nancy in French is called La peau fragile du monde, so the fragile skin of the world. It hasn't published in English; it's just a collection of early essays by Nancy. And then I also suggested a couple of texts, a selection of few pages from his book from 1993, The Sense of the World. Even if it's not, let's say, once again, his last book is quite an old book. It's almost 30 years old. I thought that it could serve us as an introduction to what we are gonna listen today. I have to anticipate. I have no idea what Nancy is gonna speak about, so I think he will improvise about his last work. But so I would start exactly from the title of the book, The Sense of the Word, because as you might know, sense is a very special word for Nancy, but it's also problematic to be how you translate that in English, because in French, sens might translate both English sense but also meaning. And this, of course, has been always problematic, I think, for English translations, because also sense means somehow what the German Sinn, direction, would say. So it's also a word from the work of Martin Heidegger. I will try not to be too complicated today. I know many of you are just starting this course, so you might not be familiar with certain terminology. You will be, I think, at the end of this course. So I started from that book on Nancy because I think in that book he posed a very important question, which is in the opening chapter of that book, The Sense of the Word, the title of that chapter, The End of the Word, connect the question of the word, the question of sense, and the question of the end of the word as the end of sense. The end of sense as meaning, let's say. If we have to give a very, very minimal definition of the difference between sense and meaning, we could say that meaning is something which is signified in a way which once is structured, let's say you might express it or describe it as meaningful, while sense is always in the act of fabrication. So like in English, you say making sense, no? Just to say when you are actually making the sense while you are expressing what you are saying. So I know these are very obvious, somehow, a reflection on the difference between meaning and sense, but for Nancy, this has been always a very important point. Even if later on, I would say this question of the sense has been abandoned a bit by Nancy, and also the question of the word has been modified deeply. In that book, Nancy starts from the end of the word as the end of what we would call a mundus or a cosmos. Let's say an ordered set of entities, which we might call the world. World in that sense, as a cosmological entity, Nancy says in that seminal book, is approaching its end. The thing is that we don't know what this means exactly. The fact that not only this world is approaching its end, but also what means to be at the end of this world. Why I do think that still this text is quite interesting, especially for people who hasn't been reading Nancy before. You might be familiar with these broader ecological questions which are raised nowadays in critical theory and philosophy. And also you might know that the end of the world has become, again, I would say after the 80s, a recurrent topic of mostly everything from blockbusters movies to political movements, and of course, as you may know, Fridays for Future and other activist groups. In that book, Nancy clarifies that you can't really speak of a singular end of the world, because in a sense, world is never one. And then we will see why also body is never one. And I think he will say also that today. The word is never one, because word doesn't mean about like a bunch of entities or even an organic body of entities. It rather means a relation among those entities which comes before the entities themselves. And in a sense, also this means that the meaning of those entities is never self-sufficient. So every entity always needs something else in order to access meaning, even its own. In this sense, for Nancy, word is not a substance, but is rather a relationship. And this relationship is something which is at the same time part of what we call myself, but also something which is outside myself. And this is why Nancy always say that a word is a word of bodies. So it's made up by bodies. And he never used body as a singular word. He always used a plural, because for him, the singularity of each body also means that their staying together, being with, is always a plurality. So singularity is not at all a kind of self-sufficient sphere, like in, for example, in neoliberal sense, but is rather the admission that once something is singular, is by definition caught in a plurality. So the word, in this sense, is never a plurality which will become a unit or a unity. So it's always a totality which expresses in his own development, in his own expression, multiplicity or even multitude, which will never be reduced to the unity of one entity or a substance. this is very important to point out, the concept of a plurality and the concept that body doesn't exist, but we always rather speak of bodies, because in a sense this brings up to our many of the questions which are raised today during those days, especially in the US. Because if the body is another one, it doesn't exist such thing like a body, because body in a sense is always, I could say, male or female, or black or brown, white, concrete, small, big. In a sense, is always the ghost of a unique body, or a singular, or sorry, or one body never existed. In this sense, I always thought that Jean-Luc Nancy has been, how could I say, like somebody who has been working on certain questions, which now, of course, are very present in the debate today, like ecology or ecologies. Of course, then all the question of the body, which has been very central in feminism, especially after the 90s and so on, after Judith Butler work on the bodies that matter and so on and so on. I always sensed in Jean-Luc Nancy work a certain sensible capacity of ability of reading certain things before they arrive in the political and philosophical debate, or before becoming, let's say, common sense. Nowadays, for us, certain questions, especially when it comes to the idea that at the end of the world there is another one, so that in a sense you have always different words. So the ends also cannot be reduced to one. Otherwise, you just have a kind of a catastrophical idea of the end, which is unique. Like the end of one word would be the end of the world, while we know that many times the end of one word could actually give birth to a different kind of reality, a different history. History is never closed, it's never decided, it's always open-end. In a sense, it's always, as Nancy would say, in the search for its own sense, so the direction. So Nancy always connected the idea of the word to the idea of the sense, to the idea of an ethics, let's say, that a word is always a way of dwelling somehow. And this brings us to the question of ecology. As you may know, the Greek word, and sorry, sometimes I could be very basic, but it's important that all of us follow certain things, and then I know that many of you already know these things much better than I do, but the idea of dwelling could be immediately connected to the idea of domesticity, of owning a place, of appropriation of a place. But if we go to the Greek root of the idea of ecology, we could see that ecology is made up of two different words. The word oikos, which means the house, and the word, of course, logos, which means the discourse, the articulation. I mean, I won't enter into that, but so usually, let's say that everything which has been connected to the house has always been connected to something which you own, something which you are familiar with. And so it would seem that ecology would be this dimension of something you are familiar with, a kind of a planetary interiority in which everything reflects us. If you like the very term Anthropocene, which you might be familiar with, which became very used in the last years, kind of reflect this meaning. Anthropocene would mean that this special animal, the anthropos, is reflected everywhere in the world, from ice caps to mountains to the sky. In a sense, we see ourselves, our species reflected, our action, we read them in geological history, or in the geological, let's say, stratas. So in a sense, at some point, this animal, which we call the anthropos, became so powerful that even goes beyond the biological level, and he describes his or her history inside the geological level. For Nancy, this kind of understanding of ecology as deep time or deep history, disconnected from social struggle or from the very bodily dimension, never existed, let's say, in his own work. For him, ecology is not a word which speaks of any interiority, because for him, body never is understood as any envelope or roping, something which encloses an interiority. Rather, body is always this kind of exposition, this kind of network of receivers and transmitter of sense, which actually is nothing but the outside. But at the same time, the mineral nature of my bones, for example, says that the very outside is inside. So the whole work of Nancy is always a deep questioning of this dimension, of this exchange of what outside and inside means. In this sense, I read also the use of the word skin, like in this lecture, the skin of the word, the fragile skin of the word. Because as you know, the skin is this kind of organ which is a threshold, or once again is the opposite of closing this device, but is rather where actually the inside and the outside communicate. So is this kind of endless sensing or touch, Nancy would say, that is always what he calls being in the world. I know this is very sketchy, but trust me, Simonetta was saying that she was saying that I've been working with Jean-Luc Nancy a lot, and it's always strange. I mean, this is the first time I'm asked to introduce his work. So for me, it's very odd to jump in his work and to introduce it, because of course it's been very influential in my life and in my work itself, and also because I think that there is not a proper introduction to his work. The nature itself of his work is highly concrete. Sometimes we use concrete as the opposite of poetic, as the opposite of, but it's very material. So this is why I would always speak of his work as a kind of ecological kind of work, because for me is what he has always tried to do, has always been a kind of a deep understanding of what materialism would mean today. So I know I didn't say anything which informed you. It's already, Simonetta, it's already time for me to get him, get Jean-Luc Nancy, because he's already.
Giovanni, you go as far as you want. Don't feel pressure.
Yeah, no, but he's waiting for me, so I really need to.
Okay.
So how do we do this?
Let's pause, Angeline. Can you pause the recording now? And you take it.
Okay, I also go out with video or not?
Je voudrais enlever.
I will switch off the video. Giovanni, you can stay or.
As you like. I switch off, or it's fine.
As you want. You can also stay there, or maybe we can just leave Professor Nancy for his lecture, and then we come back.
Jean-Luc, donc je sors aussi du vidéo, mais je suis là. Hein.
D'accord.
Je reviens après quand
And I just want to add that you have
a dit que on remette la vidéo pour ceux qui voudraient parler ensuite. Oui.
Ouais, donc tu fais tout à, parce que là ça va être enregistré. Donc c'est toi qui parles avec les vidéos, quai de toi. Et après, là tu parles 40 minutes, un truc comme ça.
Ouais.
Tu parles combien? Une demi-heure, 40 minutes?
As you like, as you want.
As you want.
Okay.
We have the whole time. for your
You
lecture.
have all the time you want. So
All the time you want.
okay, I go out and I listen to you, Jean-Luc.
Okay, okay.
Thank you very much.
Then good evening to everybody. So, well, I've seen that the title for this meeting is Philosophy and Ecology. Well, I would say there is something like a tautology in philosophy and ecology, because if philosophy is not ecology, why it is? No, ecology meaning logos about the oikon, that is the place where we live, where we are, the place of being, and philosophy is nothing else than ecology. And ecology cannot be something else than philosophy, because to really work on ecology, we have to understand first what is eco, the oikon, which is the same in the economy, as you know, and about ecology or economy, it is the same question. What are we talking about? For an ancient Greek, it was something more or less clear that oikos was home, meaning family, and the family in the sense, not in the sense of the restrained and narrow modern family, but the family of all the relatives and the people belonging to the oikos, including the slaves belonging to the master of the oikos. Then the oikos was something relatively clear and different from the polis. In the polis, that is in the city, it can be many oikos or oikeia, but the oikos by itself is not a polis, and the polis is not an oikos. But for us, those differences make no longer sense in a certain way, because all our way to be, to live, to be in relationship with others, to exchange, even to talk, to give meaning to it, are so much related with all other people, and more with the whole people around the world. That is what the the present pandemic, in a way, makes more clear, more evident how much we are in the interconnection, in the global network, which precisely is so much a global network that it makes difficulty for the oikeia, for each way of being at some place, being in some country, some city, from belonging to some people. That's all is today not clear, is problematic. That is, ecology is slowly becoming like a too large word, I would say. And so, in a way, as large as philosophy, if you want. And a jeopardy for us is that precisely politics is becoming the same as this. Frequently, we speak of politics as if politics would be I don't know, the realm of all the relationship, all the way of being together, but being together, the together is not an addition to the being. There is no being without being together. Precisely, maybe for an ancient Greek, or for all people of the ancient culture, civilization, society, if you want. It was, the oikos was more or less clear, present. So it was clear what it means to belong to these people, to this city, to this nation, to this, etc. To speak this language, what are we speaking now? What I am speaking? I'm not speaking my language. I am speaking global, globish, international language with which I cannot, for example, I cannot write. I cannot express what is for me the truth, I would say, or the sense of what I want to say or to grasp, to understand. You know. Anyway, and then we are, I think, or we enter an era of general ecology, and maybe it would be a good thing to try to, I would say, to speak only of a politics in the meaning of a certain way to organize the common life of the city, etc. And inside the political project, the political scheme, organization, to, of course, to to take what are called the ecological problem. But the ecological problem, the problem of energy, of the common goods, of how even how we breathe, how we can eat, what is our relationship with animals, vegetables, etc. That's all are not peculiar problem. There are general problem of the general way of life, which is now the techno-economical way of life. So then, how does philosophy make possible to understand how we are in this general ecological situation? Maybe I think in one way which is in a way very clear to follow through the history of modern philosophy. Something started in modern philosophy just after Kant, or with Kant. Why? Why? There is no chance. Why? Because Kant is the one who came at the end of the time of enlightenment, that is, at the end of the time where the idea of the general rationality was not invented, because the general rationality started in a way with the Greek, but the rationality has at the same time the general rationality and the rationality of man. And then the rationality was supposed to take with it a confidence in the rational man. So enlightenment, or the age of the rational man. And the rational man was already the man alone, the man without God. This started in a way a long time before the so-called death of God, of Nietzsche. Well, but what start with Kant? Many things. I will not talk now about the philosophy of Kant. No. I just want to grasp something in Kant, which is what Kant says precisely about reason. About the reason, big first work of Kant is the Critique of Pure Reason. But what is pure reason for Kant? Pure reason, and this is the whole topic of the critique. That is, the pure reason is in itself divided. And this is why it needs a critic. A critic for Kant doesn't mean the criticism of something. No, it means the distinction, making distinction between that and that. And because of the modern science, which started, as you know, several centuries before Kant, and which was precisely more and more opening problems to the theological way of thinking, which until now was predominant. Then reason is divided in the way reason is able to produce itself, the object of its knowledge, that is science. On the other side, there are other objects, the metaphysical object. For Kant, there are three only, that is God, the world as totality, and the I as an essence or a substance. Those three objects are not experimental objects, are not object of sciences. So they are the object of metaphysics, and precisely philosophy shall no longer be a metaphysic, shall no longer admit that the metaphysical objects are object or real object, like the object of the sensible experience. This is the big, enormous revolution of Kant. But what is very often misunderstood, and what was very often misunderstood through all the centuries after Kant, is that Kant doesn't say simply metaphysics is bad, and we work only with science. Precisely not, because Kant knows very well that science doesn't understand to the most important question, which are the question of the good, if you want, or ethics, and the question of the final destination, the goal. And there are the topics of the two following critics of the particle reason and critic of the judgment. Okay. Well, then, what does that mean? That means that the metaphysical objects are not object, for sure, but they are something. They exist where? In the reason, for the reason. They make together what Kant calls the unconditional. All objects are conditional. The object of sciences are conditioned. They are, if you want, only the idea of the cause and the effect. All objects are conditioned as cause and effect of other objects, etc. But the ideas, Kant calls them of the reason, the metaphysical ideas, are unconditional. And reason needs the unconditional. Reason wants the unconditional. Reason is made by what Kant called a drive to unconditional, a drive. The German word is Trieb. Why I'm talking about that now? Because from Kant to Freud, maybe if I say drive, you think necessarily to Freud. I mean, Freud in German is the same word, Trieb, and the German word Trieb is from the same family as drive in English. In French, we don't have a word of this family, and then we translate Trieb or drive by pulsion, impulse, if you want. A word maybe more for many of us of music, of jazz. And very, very important word, the pulsion or the drive. What does that mean, this drive of the reason? There are many things, but for now, for today, I want to say only one thing. The drive of the reason will become through Schopenhauer. In Schopenhauer, it takes the name of will. And through Nietzsche, in Nietzsche, you have again will, of course, you know, drive, etc. And so it comes to Freud and the drive in Freud. And what is the Freudian drive? The Freudian drive is no longer only the drive of the reason that until now maybe you understood like a kind of abstract or pure spiritual drive, but precisely with Freud, but already in a way with Schopenhauer, Nietzsche, etc. But I will not make now the history of that, but to say that with Freud, the drive reveals its physical, bodily, material nature. And in a way, if I put everything together in a very too short way, I would say from Kant to Freud, and in a way from Freud to contemporary philosophy, the reason itself, the reason as the drive it is, the drive to unconditional, the reason, that is, it's human reason, reveals or discover its own physical, material nature. What is at stake with Freud, as you know, is precisely the fact that body is not a body out of an energy that is not the energy of the body, but the energy that makes the body. And when I say body, not only the human body, but every body. What is a body? What is a physical body? What says today physics about body, that is about materiality? Says that it is energy. There is no materiality without energy, what we call energy. And the fact that we are precisely in a world where the energy is overall and is, as we know, maybe our biggest problem. How will we produce the energy we need in 1 century? We don't know. We absolutely don't know, and it is a very complicated and difficult question. But what means all the use we are making of energy? It is not simply the use of something external, no, the use of the energy is the use of something which is present in what we call nature or matter. So the physical energy is absolutely the same as a psychical or spiritual energy. There are no many energies. There is no more one energy which would be one thing, precisely because it is not an object, it's not a mere object of science. And this is exactly why in the contemporary physics it is not possible to come to a unique theory of matter, of nature, world, universe, how you want to call it, but that precisely because we know too much how the energy we can use cannot become a mere object. And when it is an object through our treatment, through our experimentation, use and transformation of nature itself, of physics itself. And anyway, I would say, since this time, that is, in a way, since the time of Kant, despite, of course, the fact that for Kant this was absolutely not evident, not clear, but that's not the question. The question is that it happens since Kant, or of course it started before. If you want, we could go back to Spinoza and talk about what Spinoza called the conatus, that is a force. Here my English is too poor to say for the strength, and the push at the same time. So the conatus of Spinoza is already something like the drive and like the pulsion. Spinoza, philosophy of Spinoza is a very, yes, I would say, pulsive way of thinking. But when I say the philosophy of Spinoza, like the one of Kant, that means that there, Spinoza, Kant are names. Those names and the works written by those people are products of a history. And at a certain time, our history became, on the philosophical realm, became the history of a drive, a push, a pulse, an effort. The effort of what? Not as from a pure mental or spiritual or abstract substance, because there is no force without something material, but an energy of mankind, yes. But then it started to be the time where mankind understood that it comes itself. We come from, as you say, from nature, from animal nature. We are animal nature. We are related to the whole animality. Not only related, but the animality is there. I am an animal. And it is possible to ask about language in order to understand how language is related to precisely to drive, to energy. What makes language? Language doesn't make only information, because, of course, a lot of information, but all the information, or every information, even the biggest of the big data in information, comes finally to, or comes from, at the same time, comes from and comes to something which cannot be another information, but which is what? If not an information, which is a formation, which is to becoming a form. And the difference between an information and a formation, even I could say the formation of an information. If I want to give an information, not only to give already ready information. If I tell you, I don't know, 1 hour ago, Donald Trump wrote a Twitter with law and order. I do nothing to give you this information. But if I want to tell you something else on the last Twitter of Trump, or no, if I want to talk to you about Kant, in order to make Kant not only what you can read by reading the book of Kant, but which goes through an understanding of Kant through all the reading of Kant, which occurs between Kant and us today, then I have to transform material, to transform, for example, the text of Kant, the word of Kant, and the understanding of Kant by itself, the understanding of the time of Kant, the understanding of the Enlightenment, etc., etc. And so I have to transform that and to form a new language, not a new language that I would create and invent, because the language is itself, by itself, a force of self-formation and transformation. But precisely, language is in that way is like working like the natural living species on the earth, transforming themselves and changing and continuing through time, etc., etc. So I just want to say that now we have to understand that that there is no abstract or unmaterial reality, but that the reality we have to deal with is a self-transforming reality, which is as well our existence, and our existence and our doing as men, as people. So it is not so that easy to say man doesn't have to destroy nature or have to take care of, because take care of means that you have a model, an idea, a reference to take care. If I say take care, you know what it means. You know how you have to take care of you. When we are going on the street, you have to take care because a car can come, well, but in a way there is no care when the whole is at stake. There is no care because there is not a model, there is not a health, there is not a good nature there, nor a good reason there. There is one common energy and one push or pulse drive, which maybe is coming to or may come to a catastrophe and a self-destruction. Why not? Like every living being, it can have its own end, maybe, or maybe it is transforming itself and able to transform itself infinitely. So, and then, of course, we have to try to invent how make the best transformation. But what is the best? What is the best? It is precisely that maybe nobody knows. Is the best transformation the most natural way of life? But what is the most natural way of life? If nature itself is transforming itself and producing language, and with language, I didn't say that, but technology, you know, the technology is absolutely natural. Technology comes from the self-transforming nature. We would say what made before a metaphysics makes today a technology. Well, metaphysics did come to an end. The technology may come to another end. What does that mean? This is we have to discover, if you want. Well, I will stop now because I think it is already maybe too long, and so you can ask your question if you want.
Giovanni, would you like to come back?
Yeah.
Thank you, Professor Nancy. Would you like to take a little break before the Q&A?
No,
No.
For me, no, that's okay.
All right, so I will ask Angela Lin. Are you there? Angela Lin? Just a moment.
So, Sumit, I was going. So, each student start asking to Professor Nancy questions, or
yes. So now I would invite everybody who wants to come up with the video and wants to ask a question to just do that. And the others who don't want to or cannot, please feel free to type your questions in the chat box on the left-hand side of the screen. Right, so I will pay attention to that. Angela Lin will do the same. But please feel free to come up with your videos now, those who want to ask the questions.
there's
And
one.
Voila.
It takes some time, Jean-Luc, but
thank you for a very, very poignant and certainly very topical lecture you gave us today, Professor Nancy. I know there will be many questions, so I want to give you some time. I see you, Sam, so would you like to take the lead and ask a question? Sam, you're muted.
yeah, Samantha, we cannot hear you.
You need to make sure that you log in with the audio, Sam.
Hello?
No?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Sorry.
hello.
Okay. If everybody can hear me now. I wanted to say, Dr. Nancy, thank you so very much for all of your work. I continue to be enlightened and deconstructed in many ways by it. It's really disarming and fantastic. So thank you. I am very interested in the role of grief in transformation. And I was wondering if you had anything to say about grief and transformation and desire based on the sense of the world, what you had written in the sense of the world.
About Greece? No.
Grief, c'est la, en fait, c'est la douleur. Grief, c'est la douleur.
Ah, grief. Grief.
Un...
No, but you know, I am becoming a little deaf. So, grief. Grief. Voilà, okay. Now. You know, grief is right. Grief is an expression of a refusal, you know, a refusal of something by my body. You know. Then grief belongs to the constitution of the body, and then we have to enter something. I didn't talk today about that, but you know, we have to enter on this simple fact that there are many bodies, there are many things. You know, I frequently say that the question of Leibniz, you know, why is there something and not nothing, is a right, of course, but has a little defect. That is, the question should be, why are there some things in the plural? Because it cannot be one thing. So then the plurality is a condition of the existence itself. In this way, we could say that the God alone, an absolutely unique God, being absolutely alone, makes no sense. Is not possible. And I would say that even the Islamic God, who is the most alone among all the gods, in a way, but the Islamic God is the God who, at the same time, is a creator of the world. And he says many times in the Quran, I can destroy and rebuild the world in one day. This is very easy for me to do. What does that mean? That means that this God in its loneliness is not absolutely loneliness. He is in relation to. Okay. Then there cannot be one thing. There are many things. If there are many things, then the many things are in relation to each other. And the relation to each other implies, first, it is possible to come together, but that at the same time it is the possible not to destroy the other. And precisely in nature, the destruction of the other thing, the destruction, to say, of the other cell, is or the destruction between particles is the rule. So precisely a body in the precisely in the meaning of how to say, in the meaning of what? I don't know. Meaning, so that we mean when we think about a body. A body starts when there is a kind of skin. You know? Even the simplest cell has a skin. That is, I don't know in English, une paroi. So, no.
Yeah, a wall is also a membrane. Like
Yeah,
a paroi, it's a wall.
Membrane, exactly, membrane. So, and for what? For what is the membrane? The membrane is to admit or to non-admit or to reject other things. So, then, when we have a very sophisticated membrane like our skin, you have places where we can get images, sounds, etc., etc. And but precisely, the more a body is, I would say, complex, sophisticated, the more it is built in order to have many relationships with the outside. Precisely, it is very interesting that in the talking animal, which is human animal, the talking animal has the possibility to talk. Precisely, the possibility to talk goes through the same opening than the possibility to eat. And the possibility to eat is a very is much more elementary than the possibility to talk. You know? So just to think about how much our body is made to allow the possibility of talking, you know, there are muscle here, etc., etc., the teeth, the tongue, everything is made. So, but now back to the grief. What try to enter and is not good, for is destroying for the body, makes grief. And precisely in the grief, I have the feeling of an externality, an exteriority, something that I want to reject. I don't want to have it. It's, well, but and
Oh.
No, this is what. Yes, you're right. You're right. You have to stop me because
No. I thought you were.
No. I
please continue.
All the time. I know. But of course we should say very more. So I just want to say at least one thing. That is that precisely we know very well how to cause a grief to another person, that is to hurt him or her. And what is to hurt? To hurt is precisely to use the skin, the membrane, not according to its opening ways, but by opening a new way, which is I take a knife and I hurt you with a knife, then I open an opening which does not belong to your skin. On the contrary, as I figured, the sexual penetration is not. It is the ambiguity of the word penetration, you know. Because the penetration in itself is not opening une ouverture. C'est an opening.
An opening, yes, yes, yes.
Which does not exist. On the contrary, in a way, our body is completely open from here until the anus, you know. So, well, and in a way, it is like a kind of invitation to circulation of many things from outside, and more than any other thing, I would say the thing of the meaning, the sense which is entering our ears and going through. But and then we could go, but stop with that.
Thank you very, very much.
No, you're welcome.
Thank you, Sam. Professor Nancy, before I let the next person come up with a question, I just want to say to all of you who are calling in with the phone that for some reason you cannot unmute yourself now after we did that. So I apologize for it. We didn't know there's this technical limitation. So if you want to speak, please call back in. So hang up and call again, and then you will be with the audio function. Thanks for your patience. And I also want to read a message by Professor George Smith, who is the IDSVA president and founder. And he writes, Jean-Luc, many, many thanks to you for these unforgettable thoughts, which you have so generously shared with us today. We remain ever in your debt. I will defer my questions so that our students can experience as much as possible the honor of engaging with you today. Warm regards, George Smith, IDSVA president.
Thank you. I think I understood the message.
Sorry, my accent is also very bad.
Thank you.
Okay.
Maybe because I think the question are very, very important, because, you know, I mean, at least I speak for me. I don't know if it's the same for Professor Nancy, but since it's a bit difficult to speak to so many people alone on the screen, we can actually seeing a face coming up with a question is much easier and helps the discussion. Maybe it's good so Professor Nancy could also develop more. So please ask questions. It's the time now.
Come up with your screen if you want. While we wait for that, I will ask a question that came in early.
There is Eileen.
Oh, okay. Hi, Eileen. Unmute yourself.
Hi.
Hi. Thank you both, Dr. Tusa and Nancy, for both the introduction and the talk. In reading the world sense of the world, I was really struck by much of it and the thoughts, but the intermingling of interior and exterior, and your description of the knot as untying and replacing and as process. I'm interested in how, in talking about ecology and what's happening in the world, how you see that as not just action, but also as drift, which is also mentioned in your sense of the world. The idea of, I think in French it's dérive, drift. The idea of things just occurring on their own momentum, but without conflict and without a desire.
Tu peux j'ai pas tout compris là.
Ouais, là, alors là, il disait qu'en fait, tu as parlé de la liaison des liaisons. Pas par ici, hein, il parlait du sens du monde, en fait, du livre. Mais après, comment tu vois les événements, disons, qui sont en train d'arriver aujourd'hui avec ces concepts qui utilisent de la dérive. Drift, quoi, comme tu dis, comme la dérive des continents, toi, quelque chose qui en fait arrive ou dérive, tu vois.
À
Je
dérive.
pense qu'elle voulait dire la dérive des événements, en fait. Comment tu
But how you say
you formulate a question, Aline. Like, so I understood. So you want Professor Nancy to expand more on his idea of drift, of something which happens without kind of something which happens on a way, kind of let him be or something like that, right?
Correct. He mentions it in his
yeah, but what's the question? Because of course it's a figure you use, but what's your question in relation to the events today? If I might ask you, just to be more precise in the answer for Professor Nancy, maybe.
Yes, thank you for clarifying. The act of what's happening today in terms of nature and the care of the world is how much, or how would he describe this as some of it is momentum, but some of it is possibly drift, that the actions of nature are happening on their own. And if he could just elaborate on that.
Dérive, hein, c'est bien ça, Giovanni. Mais comment on dit?
Dérive. Drift, oui, oui.
In English, qu'est-ce que c'est dérive?
Drift.
Drift. Ah, drift.
Like when you say continents drift.
Oh, precisely. Well, to have a drift, you have to have before a right way. I can't say on the boat, you know, dérive in French, or I don't know if drift in English is the same. Dérive is a word for boat. A small boat have what we call dérive, that is une quille mobile. So if you are going the right way, you have one way. If you are going, if you are not governing, it is a matter of governing the boat. You know, if you are not governing, or if there is no longer a captain on the boat starts to drift. So, okay. But how can we talk about a drift if we don't know the right way? What is the right way? Now we think, or maybe not precisely not now, but yesterday or yesterday, we thought the right way was something going straight away to what? To perfect mankind, a perfect society with full justice, or with everything for everybody. In a way, it was still the thinking of Marx, you know, and we was in this way of thinking. In a way, we are still there, but now I would say since not so much time, maybe since 20 years, you know, we started to understand that this right way is absolutely no sure. And why? Why? Because every step in this direction appears to be at the same time a counter step in another direction. For example, we make enormous progress in the medicine. We know how to take care for so many things. But what are we doing with medicine? We are doing people in the developed countries, you know. We are making people living more and more old, but the most of the time not having a very good life, you know. So it is not easy to be 80 like I am now, you know. It's okay because I am not in a very good health. I have many things to do. So and then more other progress, like all the progress in the speed of exchange of information, etc., etc. So are producing a lot of a growing lot of problem. So simply we don't have a right way. And I think that and this is the first time in the history of mankind, you know, because not because before. Oh, not because the before the people didn't know the right way, but because the most of the time the right way was the way out of the world. You know? The right way, the right way did have to do all the time with death. So all societies understood in a way why people are dying, and that it makes, in a way, it makes sense, you know, in a very different way, but now the modern civilization does not understand nothing with death. Death does not no longer belong to the right way. The right way should be immortality. But first, it is not that easy to get immortality, and second, immortality maybe is a strange idea. You know, what would we be able to experience, to feel, to live if we would live for 500 years at least, which is not immortality, but it would be. So you see, so then precisely we are out of any right way, then we cannot talk about a drift, or we are in a permanent drift. Oh, and this is why Derrida make a word in French that is destinérance. So destinérance is a combination between destiny. Destiny was a name for the right way, that in the meaning of the way already given or imposed to an individual or to a people, or so destiny and errance. Errance, how you translate that in English?
Errancy.
So you can't make that in English, maybe the same. Destinerance. Destinerance. So,
it's not translated in English books.
Huh?
It stays like in French, in English. Destinérance is left. The books of
so, but what does that mean? Now, the word destinérance is nice, but has no meaning. Is a contradiction in the meaning. So, what does that mean? Are we able now to understand ourselves as being without a unique and terminal and final destination. That is, are we able to get a new understanding of death? I think this is all the question is here. Because if we don't understand death, then death is a mere accident. There is this is only negative or bad, if you want. And if we are able to grasp that in another way, I mean, not individually, because I think that many individual people, I would say, have an understanding of death. I think many and very simple people. You don't need to be a philosopher to understand death. No, I've known many people as well, philosophers and other than philosophers, who understood perfectly. Perfectly doesn't mean with pleasure and of course I want to. No, but yes, it makes sense. It makes sense. So it made sense in some different way. But for a long time, our society did have a collective understanding of that. But now we no longer have that. But maybe we are now in the possibility to think anew about, and during the pandemic, you know, it has been very interesting. It is still because I speak like a French people. We French, we have the feeling it is the end, but it's not true. But I know that it is not the same in the United States, in Brazil or in India, etc. Well,
I think we've lost Nancy.
I think he touches something.
Can you help him, Giovanni?
Yeah. Yeah, just let me remote. But give me 1 second.
Well, thank you, Eileen. That was a very rich question. In the meantime, others who want to come back, come on screen.
Excuse me.
Here's Nancy.
I am back. Excuse me, I don't know what happened.
Oh, it happens sometimes. We all get disconnected.
Okay.
The video is not on.
Il faut que tu acceptes autrefois la caméra. En bas à droite, et après en haut, en gauche, sharing, et après c'est accepter.
Ah oui, ma caméra, oui.
Ouais, c'est ça.
Voilà. Ça va là, voilà.
It's coming through, yes.
See you again, yes.
Here you are, thank you.
Bon, ben voilà, alors stop.
Next question, okay.
Yeah.
Thank you, Eileen. I'm going to read the question, Professor Nancy, that came in from a student who is writing a dissertation on public space where you are one of the key thinkers. So she would like to know, her name is Catherine Melcher. She's working on the perceived conflict between public and aesthetics that occurs in public space the design discourse. The discipline of public space design is based on these two foundational concepts, aesthetics and public, and they struggle to find the common ground. So she's wondering how your work on being with and the sense of the world could help overcome these perceived conflicts and lead to new approaches to designing public spaces.
Well, so if I answer them well, it is a question about public and aesthetics.
Yes.
Yes.
Which seem to be in conflict. And she's trying to figure out how they can be, how the idea of being together could be applied to the making of public spaces. If you have any thoughts on that.
Well, I think, yes, it's true. There is like a contradiction between aesthetic and public in one way, because precisely not everybody likes the same object or like the same music or the same film. Okay, but again, back to Kant, just for a minute. And as Kant says, the property of the aesthetical judgment is to want that it becomes universal by knowing that it is not. So the difference between the rational judgment is for everybody. Everybody can understand the mathematical demonstration, but not everybody will agree that Beethoven or Picasso are great artists. And why? Because in aesthetic it goes precisely about pleasure and eventually grief. That is, to like and not to like. What does that mean? That means to feel something that is coming toward my own need, my own expectation, so. And because it is absolutely normal that we are different. If we are not different, then we are not. No. So the difference is not only the quantitative difference I talked about before when I said there is no one thing, but there is no one thing and there is no one being, that is, there is no one feeling. And precisely feeling, to feel, is what is the most singular, and not only I would say individual or peculiar, but singular. That is, I feel at a certain time and I feel something else at another time. I can enjoy Beethoven, but at another time I enjoy Lou Reed. Anyway, I'm a little old, of course. I'm unable to say some actual singer, but no. Okay, so, but everybody, and then I think this is what Kant has in mind, everybody can understand that everybody wants to take part of his aesthetical preference with the other. So, of course, it is a matter of discussion. And for example, it can be a discussion about what will be good to put on the street in the city, the public art in the city. Frequently, I see some I don't know, some public work of art, and I think, oh, how ugly it is. How could they do that? Or with the architecture. So the question then is not to think in the possibility of having one aesthetic for everybody, but to think how it is possible to share the aesthetics between a community, you see, and certainly, partly it is a new question because until now we didn't know such a mixture and a complexity of forms that we know today. And maybe there is something that which will all the time happen in all society, that is the part of people. I don't know. Take an example. I think yes, Joyce. How many English speakers around the world like Joyce? Very few, because Joyce is not understandable. I mean, at least Finnegan's Wake, but even Ulysses, you know. Or I know in France, if I speak about Proust, I mean, the majority of French people will tell me, no, I cannot read Proust. I don't understand. It is painful and annoying. And maybe that cannot be in another way. But precisely that means that that has to do with really the constitution of the society or of the community, you know, how it is. And there are times where the most elitist culture has a communication, a very mysterious and hidden but real communication with the majority. For example, at least in France, I could say, take somebody like Rousseau. Rousseau is not really easy to read. Not all, it depends. But even the La Nouvelle Héloïse, even the novel of Rousseau is not that easy to read. It is a little annoying, long, you know. It's not so. But Rousseau, through at least through the 19th century, was a kind of national popular figure, you know. Everybody knows something about Rousseau. Of course, it was through French Revolution, but more than the French Revolution. It was a certain idea, a certain representation of sensibility, of nature, precisely, etc., etc. In another way, it was a little the same with Balzac in the 19th century. Much more with Victor Hugo. But other writers or philosophers remains absolutely reserved, I would say, to the elite the people. And but I think there are certain communication that makes at a certain time there is like a mutual understanding of different parts of the people, and at other time, no. For example, today it is certain that the music of the young people is for a big part in music that older people cannot take. I can do nothing with rap. I cannot. My grandson tried to let me. I say, well, okay. The way. Anyway, I will say it's not because this time I am talking about the age and the generation that is, but precisely age and generation is a kind of difference. Other kind are more social, are more related to the place in the society, etc.
But may I say something?
Hmm?
May I say something?
Oui.
Yeah. Yeah. No, but it's just because I've seen like I was scrolling, there are hundreds of questions there, but people don't ask, so they just write their question there. But so please don't be shy, just jump in. It's easier if you just talk. But about what you were saying, maybe we could put this together again with the idea of because you were speaking about generations, ages, so participation, and so in a sense, from the beginning of this lecture, let's say that, as you said, ecology is becoming a broad term, right? Well, it's not even a specific word as it was when it was created by Haeckel in the 18th century, but rather is becoming a way of thinking about the relationship, which is not simply a historical one, not just generational or receiver of generation, but is rather plural and somehow also conflictive, like in a sense, historically speaking. So you may have, as you say, rap and many things at the same time in an ecology of some decades ago we would say constellation. Jean-Luc now is out of a constellation is a bit out of fashion, but an ecology of different times and different spaces which participate at the same time.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, constellation is a very good word, I think.
Yeah, but now it's not as used as it was before, because it's becoming out of fashion as well. No, but I was thinking, just for the students, so we might jump in. What Professor Nancy was speaking now is exactly connected to the idea of ecologies, like that there are many ecologies of thought at the same time, and so history now is not the only way we do think about social struggle or even aesthetics. Even aesthetics now we might talk, as Nancy was saying, of a general ecology. So even the aesthetical domain is brought into that. While it used to be more an historical understanding of aesthetical judgment, now more and more this kind of plurality is at the same time. But I I just invite you, since you are writing so many questions, please just put the questions in this debate, so it's more interesting for. Okay, please check out.
Yes, I think Jack is coming in. Great. Hi, Jack.
Hi, how are you?
Hi.
Thank you. I have a question related to some of the ideas of the connections you made earlier between ecology and economy and care. And I was wondering, what were your thoughts about, and you started talking a little bit about the pandemic. So what were your thoughts about how the past months of sheltering in place, being on lockdown during these times, affects our senses by transforming our sense of the world, by transforming our sense of the bodies that we can no longer encounter. Furthermore, how these transformations shifts our understandings of the ecologies of care and the economies of care.
Alors, tu peux me résumer un peu?
Oui, oui. Alors, elle demandait si, en fait, disons, pendant cette lockdown, tu vois, comment dire, le confinement, parce qu'elle t'avait parlé avant de la care, elle t'avait parlé, en fait, disons, de soins et de prendre soin de quelque chose. Et en fait, l'effet, comment le confinement affecte cette dimension de prendre soin de quelqu'un ou de soi-même. C'est ça un peu la question qu'elle pose.
Oh yes, but the lockdown is not forever. It's related to the pandemic. So in itself, it is it is unpleasant, but it is not so important. It is very unpleasant and difficult for people who are not living in large places, you know, like I don't know. I remark since the starting of the lockdown in France that almost all the people I know doesn't suffer from the lockdown because they live like me in comfortable apartments, you know. But people suffer from the lockdown when they live in very small apartment and uncomfortable in suburbs, cities where they are in towers, etc. You know, not to speak about the people on the street. So, but I am very surprised that so many people belonging to the same social, comment est-ce que je peux dire, la couche sociale dans le milieu.
Yeah, social class. No, it's not class. It's social milieu. You say that in English. Social milieu. Social milieu.
Social milieu. That so many people claim about the loss of freedom and the loss of the possibility of touching the other. But you know, I want to ask, when there is no lockdown, in the normal time, you are going in the street, you don't touch everybody. No? On the contrary, it is forbidden. If I touch somebody in the subway, I am suspected of being in harassment, you know? No? Well, so it is something very strange. It is I think, a very strange reaction, especially about touching, that suddenly we cannot touch the other, and many people react as if we would do that all the time. But we says, no, we don't. Of course, we cannot shake the hand, but not shaking the hand is not very important. We cannot embrace, and of course our society is a society of embracing, our developed society. Okay, but we know that it is for a while. We can't wait. Can't wait. I don't. As I know that it is a little more complicated when it goes on old people or the grandfather and the grandchildren, etc., etc. But no, I think it should be a very good, excellent opportunity to think more precisely about touching, about touching, that is, about approaching the other, about what means the proximity. What is a proximity? Touching implies proximity. Proximity means the most near. What is the most near? What means the nearness to somebody? That is the nearness of the skin to the skin. What does it mean? Why is there such a taboo about touching in all societies in different ways? But all societies know very important taboo about touching. Freud has quasi a whole chapter about that in Totem on Taboo, if I remember well. Then we are a society which, through all its economy and ecology, is without touching. But if we are forbidden to embrace the very few others that we embrace among the enormous number of people in general, we complain. But we would better complain about the fact that in the normal time we don't have a good use of touching, maybe. Why it is so that now if you go in the subway, if somebody touch your hand, you will think, what he is doing, what he want, no? He or she. So then, why are we in such a terrible climate that the idea of the sexual harassment and violence is everybody there, and that shows why it is needed today that you make a smile if you are alone in the street and you cross a man. You make a smile in order to show that you are very peaceful, but no. When a very long time ago, I started to come to America, and I was on the campus, and going through the campus, I was surprised that so many people was smiling by crossing me.
Mostly, it was California, Jean-Luc.
Huh?
But it was because you were in California.
Yes, in California.
I know.
Yes, but my colleague explained me, don't think all those people are liking you. No, yes. They are showing we are peaceful. We won't aggress each other. You know. Right. Of course, yeah. It could be, but California is a kind of compendium of precisely of what I am talking about. And today, in a way, it starts to be almost the contrary. The smile could be a sexual invitation. Well, we have that all shows that we have a difficulty until this very small, I would say, humble level of the relation between us, because our society lost a lot of marks of recognition, of salutation, of respect, of tenderness, etc., etc. Go in Japan. In Japan, you will never embrace. The first time I did go to the house of a Japanese friend a long time ago, I entered and he did have two young daughters, very, very young, you know. So I enter and I start to embrace them, and I was afraid, because it is absolutely strange to the ordinary custom there. So, and not to speak about many other ways, in a way we could say even other rituals of communication. We are in a trouble with a ritual of communication. So maybe it's a good time to start again, to reinvent and to transform or to invent our science of mutual recognition. Because the point is here is what does that mean to recognize each other? And of course, it is very important.
Oh. Okay, I think he did again. Okay. I think he'll come back. He will come back along this time. So I might take the lead for some seconds just to say that also. I think that the word Jekka disappeared somewhat, but I think the word care is also.
I put my hand on the mouse.
Here's Nancy.
You already know.
Yeah, I put my hand on the mouse and
yeah. Just saying that the word care is also.
I don't touch the mouse.
Giovanni, can you help?
It's coming back. It's coming back now. He knows how.
Okay.
So the word care is.
Okay.
La caméra, Jean-Luc. Il faut que tu
Ah oui, la caméra.
Well, I was just saying that while you were away for some seconds, that the word care is always used as caring is already a good thing as such, the care as a domain of affective, tenderness towards somebody. But care could be also a very problematic.
I don't like care. I don't like the idea of care, because the idea of care implies that the other is weak, is sick. So, well, no. Why not think that the other is even if he or she is sick? That's not the question. The question is, I have to be in relation to what makes the most proper being, then I would say the most, as I said before, the proper conatus with the word of Spinoza, or the proper dry of the other. You know? Then I have to address the force of the other and not the weakness. That doesn't mean that I have to say, oh, care yourself with yourself. I don't care about that. No, but the idea of the care is an idea of weakness. But to what do we take the measure of the weakness? To what? To the health? No. What if we start by the presupposition that the other is strong, and that I have to address his strongness, and I have to, yes, to enter in, no, you know, when you are sick, of course you need to have a doctor, etc. But precisely, we don't have to be doctor for each other. Besides the doctor, we know how much it is important to have other people, and other people are not doctors, and not even doctor of the soul, you know, because there are no doctor of the soul, and maybe the most important thought of Freud and Lacan is to think that psychoanalysis is not.
Oh, that was.
Is not made.
Jean-Luc, could you repeat, because we lost you when you said Freud and Lacan, psychoanalysis is not, and then you lost your definition. Could you repeat that?
No. That psychoanalysis is not a kind of medicine. It's not like, say, the Lacan and so, is not made to make the ego more strong. Il fait de la confortation du moi, making strong the ego.
Enforcement in English. The enforcement.
Enforcement, voilà. No. Of course, if a psychoanalyst makes what they call I don't psychological help that exists. I say nothing against that. It can be very useful for but I say just that the big idea of psychoanalysis, which is an idea which maybe goes beyond any possibility of practicing psychoanalysis. That is another question. But the main idea of psychoanalysis is that it goes to go to the point of the point which is the point of the most proper singularity of one people, and to allow to one people to by himself or by herself to invent its, I would say that with that, or to invent or reinvent its own story, or, and not to become more quiet in the society, etc., etc. So, well, then. I don't say we don't have to help the other, but the ground of our relationship to the other cannot be this one, and shall have to do precisely with a strongness, with a moral strongness, which what we call the dignity. What is the dignity? Dignity is not. Take that on the realm where it is frequently used to die in the dignity. What means to die in the dignity? That is precisely to die. I would say almost out of the care. To die in the dignity is not that other people take care of me, to help me, to not too much to suffer. Of course, maybe it is better not to suffer, but not to suffer too much is may be precisely the choice, the decision of the person itself. And to make this decision, you need a certain strongness. You have to decide that. And in that way, this is the reason for what doctors are right when they refuse to help to die people who doesn't seems to be really really strong enough to know what they want. So it is like what is the economical dignity? The economical dignity is not only the possibility to get enough money to have a normal life, because precisely what is a normal life? Where starts and where ends a normal life? You know? But of course, we know what is needed so that one people may live precisely in the condition where he or she may have by himself or herself the force to live, because it is difficult to live. There is a lot of difficult things to do, to suffer. So I think that our society has precisely nothing to feel, I would say, to feel the place of the dignity. We say dignity, and now we are. There is a temptation to feel the dignity with the simple life. Life, okay. And it was, all this ambiguity was still there, or is still there with the pandemic. What does that mean to save life which are no longer really living life? This is not a false question. See, I am absolutely for the protection, the care, if you want, of the old people, but at the same time, I think we cannot avoid to recognize that we don't know what we do with the length of the life. We don't know. How can we? We have to invent something. I don't know. Just recently, I've seen a film precisely about old people. That is a film from the French filmmaker Claude Lelouch, who makes a very, yes, Giovanni, you were asking. Because
No, it's fine. It's fine.
I think you thought, oh, Lelouch is a very bad filmmaker, a very sentimental. Okay. You know, maybe that he made almost 52 years ago, I think, a film called A Man and a Woman, Un homme et une femme, which was, I think, worldwide very well known, you know, with the music, chabadabada, etc. And now, last year, Lelouch made a film with the four main actors of Un homme et une femme, or A Man and a Woman, that is Jean-Luc Nancy, Anouk Aimée, and the two actors who was children in the film 52 years ago. So the same people play the role in the new film. And this is a very interesting film, much more interesting than the first one. Much less, I would say, much less sentimental, and very, very strong about because in the film, mainly Jean-Louis Trintignant, which is an old man, very old and not really well, even in this thinking. He is precisely presented in a way that shows what is the most, what is still the most strong in him. So, but then we should make an explanation of the film itself, etc. But I think, and I thought after the film, I thought maybe the way, are we able to make a work of art with the age? What does that mean? I don't know. But this film makes, and in the film, the actor himself, Trintignant, and the woman, Anouk Aimée, they make from their own age, they made a work of art. What does that mean? That means giving a form, you know. So maybe I will stop with that. Maybe I could say just that. To take care does not go in the direction of making a form. On the contrary, to make a form, to build a form, to invent a form, to transform. This is not a matter of care. Well, stop.
Thank you, Professor Nancy.
Thank you.
Were asking, because some people were asking about the name of the film. So in English is, I googled it, so it's The Best Years of a Life.
Right, c'est ça, les plus belles années de la vie. You're absolutely right, Giovanni. Je vois qu'il va être bientôt 7h30. Alors, moi, j'avais prévu jusque-là 7h30. Alors, peut-être si on peut encore une question et arrêter, parce qu'après, il faudrait que je appelle quelqu'un.
Okay,
so would you like to take one more question? Thank you so much.
Because, in 5 minutes, Professor Nancy has to leave for another engagement.
Okay, Omenihu, would you like to come up and ask your question, or should I ask it for you?
It's better if you make.
Maybe I will ask it. So Omenihu Amachi asks, how does the sense of the Occident, of partition, parenthesis, of partition difference to existence, ignite a world of being two, being four, being by, and being two? The sense of the Occident.
Alors, Giovanni, tu veux
la question, c'est en fait, si j'ai bien compris, c'est si l'essence de l'Occident, en fait, c'est encore un point de référence, comment on peut donner la force, la direction, si l'Occident peut encore donner la direction au être avec, ou si toi. En fait, je pense que c'est un peu la question si l'Occident, c'est encore un point of ignition, toi, quelque chose qui peut donner un point de départ ou même le point final.
L'Occident?
Ouais.
I don't think so.
The last question is the toughest one.
No, I don't think so, because Occident in the, I don't think so. Well, first, because Occident is a name of this story where metaphysics becomes empty and science become in the place of metaphysics, and now science is showing that it is not going to a final meaning. Okay, then I think that there is I would say, kind of tautology between Occident and what is the meaning of Occident, that is falling down, you know. And since a long time, I think that it is not by chance that we have this word Occident, because we are going down, we are going towards the end of the day, and the end of the day is Occident itself. That is, in Arabic, you know, this is Maghreb, or the Morocco, the same name. That all means the end of the end. Okay. But the end of the day, as we know, is the beginning of the night, and after the night comes another day. Then every day we don't know if it will be another day tomorrow. But if there is one, it is never the same. It's never the same. Then what will come will certainly be something else than Occident. As will not Orient, because Orient and Occident are related, you know. And in a way, it is it is the same to call it oneself Occident, or to call oneself Orient, the land of the growing sun, like Japan, or to call oneself the land of the middle, the Middle Empire, which was the self-given name of China. No. Maybe what will come will be quite different to all this orientation, beside or apart or without orientation, or it will have to do with the other opposition, which is North and South. In a way, Occident is mainly dealing with North. No? But South, what is South? South is a big part is Africa and South America. And of course, not everything in the South is from the South. Like Australia maybe does not belong to South, certain extent. No, New Zealand, no, but no. I mean, in the spirit, in the force. Maybe there is something. I would say coming from Africa, for example, or coming from South America, but maybe that has no much meaning to say that. Maybe it is much more complicated. Maybe it is some, I don't know, some, I would say, Africanity, which is already in the, say, partly in the Europeans' consciousness, partly, at least in European art even, or maybe in American one. So, so we of course, we cannot predict. It is unpredictable. But what is there unpredictable is that the humanity itself is unpredictable for itself. Imagine people in the 15th century who could imagine what the 18th century was. And it was already coming. So that's it. Now something is coming. It will take a very long time. So that means that now we can be aware to everything that is a sign of or all sign of disturbation of the Occident way are interesting. For example, we are in front of medical problems that we never expected before. This is interesting. It is not only painful or no. It's something more. Something more is given by the questions, problems we have.
Simonetta, I don't know if you want to ask.
Oh, I'm still here. You don't see me?
Yeah, I think so. I think you are leaving. You are leaving, no?
Oui, si je peux, oui.
Dr. Nancy, thank you so much for your time. We really appreciate it
No,
from the heart.
No, it was a pleasure.